On a road this bloody and full of twists and turns, pretty much anything can happen. Hey guys, I'm Rebecca from WatchMojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 craziest Game of Thrones theories that might actually be true. Think you know Game of Thrones? Click below to sign in with your Google or Facebook account and take the new trivia quiz on WatchMojo.com. Okay, let me see if I can get all this. We are looking at popular but pretty wild Game of Thrones theories here. Like, if they were true, it'd be a pretty big shocker, but they're still definitely possible. So that means we're excluding things that will almost definitely actually happen, like Clegane Bowl, as well as really out there theories like Varys being a merman. Also, this should go without saying, but there will be many spoilers between seasons 1 and 7. Alright, let's get to it. Number 10. Littlefinger isn't actually dead.
You stand accused of murder. You stand accused of treason. How do you answer these charges? Lord Baelish.
After all of his devious plots and backstabbing, it was extremely satisfying to see Littlefinger finally get what was coming to him. Some fan theorists, however, are cautioning us that we should be hesitant to celebrate too soon. You see, one quickly forgotten scene in Season 7 saw a woman whisper something to Littlefinger and receive a coin. Could Littlefinger have been warned of his impending demise? And might the ever-conniving Littlefinger have hired himself a body double in the form of a faceless man? Perhaps the person who gave him the news was already simply wearing a face? Of course, even if Littlefinger did really die, he might appear to have survived should Arya choose to wear his face. Number 9. Sam is telling the whole story.
If you're going to write histories, Tarly, you have to do the research. If you want people to read your histories, you need a bit of style.
At this point, it's very difficult to predict how the show will end. Instead, some fans have opted to venture a guess as to who will survive to tell it. Every story has a narrator. So what if, at the end of it all, we learn that the story we've just heard is being retold by an aging Maester Samwell Tarly?
You don't like the title? What would you call it then?
Possibly something a bit more poetic?
We're not poets, Tarly.
At the Citadel, he suggests an alternate title for the history book being written, showing an interest in cataloging the period in which he's living. Among those who've expressed an interest in this theory is Sam's own actor John Bradley. Like many fantasy writers before him, George R.R. Martin has taken a lot of inspiration from The Lord of the Rings. And this theory suggests one final homage to Tolkien's masterpiece as the series wraps up.
There and Back Again. A Hobbit's Tale by Bilbo Baggins. And The Lord of the Rings by Frodo Baggins.
Number 8. Jon is not the prince that was promised.
The Lord let you come back for a reason. Stannis was not the prince who was promised, but someone has to be.
According to the followers of the Lord of Light, the prince that was promised is a savior destined to battle the darkness and the reincarnation of the legendary hero Azor Ahai. Melisandre, the Red Priestess, originally treats Stannis Baratheon as the promised prince. But hey, we all make mistakes. Following his death and resurrection, Jon Snow seems like the logical choice. But this is Game of Thrones we're talking about, so the obviousness of this has inspired some to look for a twist. After his near-death experience at the Battle of Blackwater, some believe it's actually Sir Davos, in keeping with the born, quote, amidst salt and smoke part of the prophecy. Given the difficulty of translating High Valyrian, others have suggested it's not necessarily a gendered prophecy, and that Dany could be the savior. Number 7. Jaime will kill Cersei.
You don't know what I am.
I know you're a witch, and you can see the future. Tell me mine.
Everyone wants to know their future. Until they know their future.
When Cersei was a young girl, she visited a witch who delivered a prophecy. In short, the witch told Cersei that she would bear 3 children, golden-haired, all of whom would die. Check. She would be queen for a time, only to be replaced by a younger one. Check. While they skipped it in the show, in the books, the witch also predicts that Cersei would be killed by the Valonqar, which means little brother. Naturally, given their animosity, People assumed Tyrion was the little brother destined to kill her.
I've thought about killing you more times than I can count.
But since her twin brother Jaime was born second, he's technically a little brother as well. As Cersei grows increasingly unhinged and Jaime seemingly more morally conflicted, a tragic sibling/lover's quarrel could see her brother-lover realize the prophecy in an unexpected way.
Our children are gone. Our father is gone. It's just me and you now.
There's one more yet to come.
Number 6. Gendry is Cersei and Robert's son.
Then he started asking me about my mother.
Your mother?
Who she was, what she looked like.
What did you tell him?
She died when I was little. She had yellow hair.
It's safe to say that the womanizing King Robert sired more than his fair share of bastards over the years. When Joffrey learns of these potential threats to his claim over the throne, he orders a mass execution. To our knowledge, only one bastard survives. But what if Gendry isn't the bastard people believe? Fans have speculated that he could be the child of Cersei and Robert's wedding night. Cersei hated her husband as of that very night when he said Lyanna Stark's name instead of her own. Might her hatred of Robert driven Cersei to send his heir away? Perhaps that black-haired child didn't die as Cersei said.
I lost my first boy, little black-haired beauty. He was a fighter too. Tried to beat the fever that took him.
Number 5. Jon will kill Daenerys.
He loved her. And she loved him.
Jon and Dany finally became reality in the season 7 finale, when the Mother of Dragons and the King in the North got it on. Almost simultaneously, we got confirmation of Jon's Targaryen blood, so yeah, mixed feelings. However, incest and all, few people can imagine a better conclusion than Dany and Jon ruling the 7 kingdoms together. But this is Game of Thrones, so a happy ending seems unlikely. In the books, legend tells that the first long night ended when Azor Ahai sacrificed his wife. Fan theorists have argued that history must repeat itself with Jon and Dany to complete the prophecy. Others have argued that Daenerys is simply doomed to the madness of her bloodline, which will force Jon's hand. Number 4. Tyrion made a deal with Cersei.
You may not have killed Joffrey, but you killed Myrcella, you killed Tommen. No one would have touched them if father was here. No one would have dared.
I've never been more sorry about anything.
I will not hear it, not from you. I will not hear it!
If there's one thing Game of Thrones has taught us, it's that we should not get emotionally invested in any character. If they're too kind or too pure, they're likely to meet a horrible fate. If they don't die, they'll live to disappoint you. Tyrion is kind-hearted and good, but he's also calculating and utilitarian, not above making sacrifices in the name of the greater good. And in the season 7 finale, he had a tense reunion with his estranged sister Cersei, and it was heavily implied that we were not shown the entirety of their conversation. Could it be that Tyrion cut a deal with his detestable sister that he perceived as necessary for the greater good?
Maybe Euron Greyjoy had the right idea. Get on a boat. Take those who matter.
You're pregnant.
Number 3. Tyrion is actually a Targaryen. Tyrion Lannister is the black sheep in his family, and not just in stature. Sure, he's got his father's intelligence, but he's very different in personality. Fans would be thrilled for him to discover alternative parentage. But where's the proof? Well, how about this line from Tywin?
You're no son of mine.
It seemed figurative at the time, but what if it was the truth? In season 6, Tyrion frees Daenerys' dragons without getting roasted.
When my father told me the last dragon had died a century ago, I cried myself to sleep that night. But here you are.
As a rule, without their mother present, they don't take kindly to strangers. Unless dragon-born. Could Tyrion be the love child of the Mad King and Joanna Lannister? There is certainly groundwork for it in the books. As Dany says in A Storm of Swords, quote, "The dragon has 3 heads."
I'd say you get used to them, but you never really do.
Number 2. Bran is the Night King.
He saw me! The Night King! He saw me!
He touched you.
Game of Thrones involves a lot of moving parts, but few are more befuddling than the role to be played by Bran Stark. In the 5th episode of season 6, The Door, we learned that Bran can influence the past.
Hold the door!
Realizing that he effectively gave Hodor brain damage is a harsh lesson in great power equals great responsibility. But more importantly, the revelation all but guaranteed that Bran has a huge part to play, like sacrificing himself to defeat the Night King. Many have suspected that the Night King is a Stark, so what if it actually is Bran, having used his warg and time travel abilities? It'd certainly be a cruel twist worthy of George R.R. Martin.
When the long night comes again, I need to be ready.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
Burn them all!
Where's my sister?
He lives. You asked for life. You paid for life.
This is not life. When will he be as he was?
When the sun rises in the west, sets in the east. When the seas go dry, when the mountains blow in the wind, like leaves.
Oh, I will return, dear Spider. One last time.
My lady.
I have to die in this strange country. Just like you.
My dancing master was from Bravos.
To be a dancing master is a special thing, but to be a faceless man, that is something else entirely.
Number 1, the White Walkers will win. Obviously, this would be an insane and incredibly dark way to end the series, but given the show's past, we wouldn't be completely surprised. When Game of Thrones' penultimate Season 1 episode ended with the beheading of Ned Stark, it was a declaration of war against viewer expectations. Since then, it's been one shocking and dark twist after another. The Red Wedding, the death of the seemingly victorious Oberyn Martell, just to name a few. In Game of Thrones, the good guys don't always win. In fact, they rarely do. The shrewdest player usually takes the lead. And considering all the human infighting, the Night King currently has the upper hand. It would be a bleak conclusion, but it would also be bold and admittedly on brand. Okay, here's my crazy theory. Ned Stark comes back. Okay, I don't really mean that. Do you guys have any ideas? I don't know. Anyway, if you like this video, be sure to click like and check out the rest of our Game of Thrones content this week, including these videos, to get even more psyched about the final season.